A1C check is done using the A1cManager. After you have fresh data entered, you start the A1C check by clicking on the button labeled A1C check. And it asks you whether you are interested in updating the prescription before proceeding. Let's assume that the prescription is up to date. We click on No. Let's begin the A1C check with this screen. The first item that is highlighted is the body weight. The example is called Mr. Multiple Daily Insulin Injections, and he has a body weight of 208 pounds, and this calculates out to a BMI of 26.7. Now we want to take the steps through the process of doing an A1C check. So you go and click on the yellow marker labeled A1C checks, and that opens a screen with all of the data and all of the features, including the animation. I will start by going to a full profile, and you will see for Mr. Multiple MDI that there are risks of hypoglycemia, and the estimated A1C is 6.9%. And that is based on an average glucose level of 147 that is calculated from 52 numbers over the previous 7 days. As you can see, the red flag of risks of hypoglycemia show that these risks occur after lunch and after dinner. So on the meal period profile, this is the before lunch that averages 174 and the after lunch that averages 98. This profile, of course, occurs because the patient is taking 6 units of Humulin R before breakfast, 4 units of Humulin R at lunch, 8 units of Humulin R at dinner, along with 20 units of Lantus. The question always is, how close is this profile to the ideal target ranges? And we can go and superimpose the doctor's targets by clicking on item number 4 in the A1C checks. You see that immediately the target ranges are superimposed on the glucose profile. Fasting values are outside of target range, before breakfast out of range. However, the after breakfast glucose ratings are in range. Before lunch is out of range, the after lunch is in target range, but it risks low blood glucose. In most cases, the very first thing to do is to try to eliminate the low blood glucose readings. And the advantage of the A1C checker is it allows you to explore all of the drugs and all of the doses in order to see whether you can improve this A1C and perhaps do so without increasing the risks of hypoglycemia. I'm going to show you how to reduce the risks of hypoglycemia and improve the A1C simply by making medication changes. Now let me hide the targets and let us look at the profile. Let us start with dinner time, where the risks of low blood glucose after dinner are very clear. Because the patient is taking Humulin R, we will go to the adjusters that are part of the animation process, and you can see that I can click up the Humulin R or I can click down the Humulin R. And clicking on these will show precisely what is likely to happen if this person reduces the Humulin R at dinner time. So let me click 1, 2, 3, 4, and as you can see, the fall after dinner is dissipating. But of course, this is going to raise the A1C, and as you can see, those changes alone raise the A1C from 6.9 to 7.8%. However, there are still risks of hypoglycemia at lunch, and so we go click on lunch to select the animation and similarly reduce the humulin R at lunchtime until there is no fall. And now that we've done that, we notice that the fall still occurs at breakfast. And I have to point out that a drop in glucose after the meal is pathological. A rise in glucose after the meal is physiological. So let's go and remove this pathological treatment from the 6 units of humulin R and reduce them. Now you notice that I have managed to line up the pre-breakfast, after breakfast, pre-lunch, after lunch, pre-dinner, after dinner, and bedtime values all in a line across the screen. This represents an A1C of 9.1. So these changes alone are not sufficient. But it is now just a simple matter of saying we have to lower the entire profile, and to do that, we use the long-acting medication, which in this case is provided at dinner time. So we go to dinner, go to the longer acting medication, where we see the 20 units of Lantus are highlighted, and start to increase the 20 units of Lantus. And with each increase, you will see the blood glucose begin to fall. And so I will continue to do that and bring them closer to the target range. As you can see, with each click, the A1C is falling. And so now I can apply the targets, and you see that virtually all of the data is in the target range. What does this mean? It means that medication adjustments alone can improve the profile. If we wanted to compare the before and after profile, this of course is after the treatment changes, we can go to print preview, and the print preview shows you the profile before with the current treatment, the A1C of 7.1, and the profile after treatment with the A1C of 6.8. Remarkably, with this profile, there are no risks of hypoglycemia. We can close the comparison. And basically at this point in time, the question is, what do these changes actually involve? So let's go through each one of them individually and make some notes at the same time. So I confirm that we want to add some patient instructions, and the notes, as you can see, are hidden behind the screen. If we bring them to the forefront, it will tell you that today, June 2nd, the A1C is 6.9, and we're going to annotate the changes that we made, starting with breakfast. At breakfast, the changes we made are labeled delta, and the 2 minus signs mean that the goal is to decrease humulin R moderately at breakfast. The patient is taking 6 units. Moderately would be, say, 2 units. So the first note would be, we suggest reduce humulin before breakfast from 6 to 4 units. At lunchtime, we have 3 minus signs. This is a significant reduction. So significant would be 50% change would be quite significant. So let's say that the suggestion would be to and reduce humulin R before lunch from 4 to 2 units. Dinner time, we have two changes. Significantly reduce the humulin R at dinner and increase the lantus at dinner. So we want one to go down, reduce humulin before dinner from 8 to 4. That's a significant change. And increase lantus before dinner from 20 to 24. That's a significant change. Clearly, some judgment is required, and generally the right thing to do is make relatively small changes, ask the patient to collect fresh data, and review the results in a week's time. So at this point we can say done, the notes are recorded, and we're ready to save these data.